Show your IDs now. Leave my property.
The battle for Willow Lake. The knock came at dawn, a sharp, insistent rap that shattered the stillness of our new home in Willow Lake. It was our third day in this idyllic suburban retreat, a place we'd chosen to escape the grind of city life. My wife, Laura, was sipping coffee on the porch swing, her silk robe catching the morning breeze off the lake. I was already on edge, the residue of a high-stress tech career still fraying my nerves. That knock felt like a violation of the peace we'd paid a fortune for. I stood, ready to unleash a decade's worth of pent-up frustration on whoever dared disturb us. But Laura's hand on my arm stopped me cold. "Let me handle this, Tom," she said, her voice calm but firm. She was always the steady one, a quiet force who could defuse any storm. I didn't know then that the storm about to hit us would test everything we thought we knew about each other and our new neighbors. Standing on our doorstep was a woman who looked like she'd been carved from ice. Her blonde bob was razor-sharp, her navy pantsuit pressed to perfection. Behind her loomed a burly man with a scowl that could curdle milk. "I'm Deborah," the woman announced, her voice clipped and cold. "President of the Willow Lake Homeowners Association. This is my husband, Frank. We need to see your identification for security purposes." I felt my blood pressure spike. Security purposes? At 7 in the morning? I opened my mouth to tell her exactly where she could shove her security purposes, but Laura stepped forward, her presence commanding. "No," she said simply, her tone flat and final. Deborah's eyebrows shot up, her composure cracking. "Excuse me? This is a mandatory check for all new residents. Refusal has consequences." Frank took a step closer, his bulk meant to intimidate. It didn't work. Laura didn't flinch, her gaze locked on Deborah. "You're on our property," she said, still calm. "You have no authority to demand our IDs. Leave." Deborah's face twitched, a vein pulsing in her temple. She wasn't used to defiance. With a venomous smile, she pulled out her phone, muttering into it as she stormed off, Frank trailing like a loyal guard dog. Words like uncooperative and potential threat drifted back to us. I turned to Laura, fists clenched. What the hell was that? Who does she think she is? Laura sipped her coffee, her eyes on the street. Someone who's about to regret picking this fight. 5 minutes later, tires screeched as 3 black SUVs roared into our cul-de-sac, surrounding our house like a military blockade. A dozen SWAT officers spilled out, rifles raised, their black gear making them look like a swarm of lethal insects. My heart pounded. This was a quiet lakeside community, not a war zone. Neighbors peeked from behind curtains, their faces a mix of fear and curiosity. The team leader, a grizzled man with a no-nonsense glare, pointed his weapon at Laura, who hadn't moved from the porch. "On your knees. Hands where I can see them," he barked. I started forward, ready to do something reckless, but Laura's voice cut through the chaos. "Stand down, Captain Hayes." The man froze, his eyes narrowing behind his goggles. Slowly, he lowered his rifle. "Ma'am?" he whispered, disbelief cracking his voice. Laura smiled faintly. "Level 7 clearance. Protocol Delta. You know the drill." Captain Hayes went pale, snapping to attention. "Stand down," he shouted to his team. "Form a perimeter. Secure the area. Code 10 situation." The SWAT team, moments ago poised to storm our home, now looked like chastised recruits. They lowered their weapons and fanned out, facing outward toward the stunned neighbors. Across the street, Deborah and Frank watched from their pristine lawn, their smug expressions melting into shock. Deborah's mouth hung open, her face ashen. Captain Hayes approached our porch, saluting Laura crisply. "Ma'am, I apologize. We got a tip about a hostage situation. Your file is sealed. We weren't informed of your presence." Laura nodded. "It's a low-profile posting, Captain. Thank you for your response. The threat's been identified." Her gaze flicked to Deborah, who flinched as if slapped. The venom in Laura's look could have felled an ox. As the SUVs peeled out, leaving a stunned silence, I saw hatred ignite in Deborah's eyes. She'd been humiliated by the very power she'd tried to wield. I looked at Laura, standing there like a queen dismissing her guard, and realized this was far from over. Willow Lake wasn't the haven we dreamed of. It was a battlefield, and Deborah had just declared war. We hadn't come to Willow Lake looking for trouble. After selling my tech startup, I was burned out, running on fumes after years of 16-hour days and cutthroat deals. One night, I'd come home and told Laura, I'm done. I want quiet. I want to breathe again. She didn't argue, just nodded with those perceptive eyes of hers. We found Willow Lake in a glossy brochure, its sparkling lake and manicured lawns promising a simpler life. For me, it was perfect. For Laura, I wasn't so sure. Laura was a mystery, even after 10 years of marriage. She'd told me she was in security consulting, a vague term I never pressed. I knew she'd been in law enforcement before something elite, maybe SWAT. Her confidence was unshakable, her movements precise, like she saw the world in angles and exits. She was protective but carried a weariness, a shadow of things she'd never shared. She agreed to Willow Lake for me, trading whatever life she'd had for one with porch swings and sunsets. I didn't grasp what she was sacrificing until Deborah knocked. Our first days were blissful. We unpacked, watched the lake shimmer, and I felt my shoulders relax for the first time in years. We met a few neighbors, including a nervous little man named Eddie, who lived 2 doors down. He brought over a plate of oddly crunchy welcome cookies and stammered, "It's nice here, mostly. Just stay on Deborah's good side." His eyes darted like he expected her to appear from the bushes. She runs a tight ship. Very tight. We learned what he meant on day 3. After the SWAT fiasco, Deborah spun a tale of heroic vigilance, painting us as dangerous outsiders. She omitted the part where Captain Hayes saluted Laura. In her version, the SWAT team left after a tense standoff, and we were on notice. The neighborhood, cowed by her reign, but either pretended to. Smiles turned to averted gazes overnight. I was livid, ready to storm Deborah's house and tear into her. Laura stopped me. "Don't give her what she wants, Tom. She's baiting you. Let her overreach." Deborah didn't wait long. The next day, a thick envelope from the Willow Lake HOA arrived, listing absurd violations. Our trash cans were out too long, $100 fine. A single weed sprouted by our driveway, $50. And our welcome mat wasn't an approved earth tone, $100. It was petty tyranny, a declaration of war on cream-colored paper. I crumpled the letter, raging. $2.50 for a weed? Is she insane? Laura smoothed the paper, reading each line with focus. "It's not about money, Tom. It's harassment." She's building a case. She was right. Deborah's next move was a whisper campaign, holding coffee clatches with neighbors, spreading poison. We were secretive, dangerous, maybe criminals in witness protection. The gossip turned Willow Lake into a fishbowl. Mothers pulled their kids away at the community pool. Shoppers avoided us at the market. Eddie became our only ally, sneaking over after dark with updates. "She's saying Laura has mind control powers," he whispered one night, chewing his nails. "Barb from number 12 believes her." "Mind control?" I groaned. "That's ridiculous." "You don't know Deborah," Eddie squeaked. "She convinced half the block last year that squirrels were government drones. People put tinfoil on their bird feeders." 2 weeks later, another envelope arrived, announcing an emergency HOA meeting to vote on our expulsion. It cited our refusal to comply, unpaid fines, we'd paid them, with receipts, and behavior unbecoming. It was a sham trial, Deborah's endgame to purge us. My rage boiled over. "I'm done, Laura. I'm calling a lawyer. I'm calling the news. I'll sue this HOA into oblivion." Laura let me vent, then spoke. "A lawsuit takes years, Tom. The press won't care about an HOA spat. We'll be broke and exhausted, and we'll still lose. We need to be fast and quiet." Quiet. She called SWAT on us. "We're not taking it," Laura said, her eyes glinting. "We're letting her dig her own grave. People like her always get sloppy. When she does, we'll be ready." The pressure intensified. Our mailbox was vandalized, mail shredded across our lawn, a federal offense, but unprovable. A baseball crashed through our window. I saw Frank smirking across the street as teens fled. He was using proxies, keeping his hands clean. I was unraveling, double-checking locks, glaring at neighbors, my old hot-headed self resurfacing. Laura, though, was a rock. She documented everything. Photos of the mail, the baseball bagged as evidence, and a log of every incident. She made discreet calls from our soundproofed office, speaking in codes I didn't understand. One day, a van pulled up, and a silent technician swept our house for bugs, installing hidden cameras. He nodded at Laura and left no bill. Who was he? I asked. An old colleague, she said, checking camera feeds. He owed me. Eddie's cryptic notes kept us informed. Frank met a councilman today. Deborah says you're building a gun range in your basement. It was psychological warfare, and they were winning. Then, at 2 a.m., Laura woke me, showing me a camera feed. A figure in black was prying at our garage door. The night vision caught their face. Deborah, not a hired thug, but the HOA president herself, dressed like a burglar. I reached for my phone. I'm calling the cops. No, Laura said, ice in her voice. She tapped a red button on her phone. Local police will believe her. We need a different response. DHS has a team staged nearby for level 7 breaches. They'll be here in 4 minutes. 2 unmarked sedans glided up, and 4 agents in dark suits cuffed a stunned Deborah before she could blink. Department of Homeland Security, Laura whispered. An evidence tech bagged her crowbar as they hauled her away. Watching Deborah's smug face collapse under a flashlight's glare was pure satisfaction. She shrieked, "I'm the HOA president," as they stuffed her into a car. The agents vanished, leaving silence. We thought we'd won. Neighbors buzzed. Eddie grinned. You did it. But victory was short-lived. Deborah was out on bail, and Frank wasn't just her enforcer, was a city councilman with deep connections. The real fight began. A building inspector hit us with bogus violations for a deck permit. Outlets too low, lawn grade off, and unapproved paint. Fines piled up. My car was towed for a no parking sign that appeared and vanished the same day. Frank was waging a shadow war, using city bureaucracy as a weapon. We couldn't sell our housewood by a property targeted by a vindictive councilman. We were trapped, bled dry. Laura sat me down one night. Level 7 means protection for former deep cover operatives, Tom. My work was sensitive. The system stops physical threats, like Deborah's break-in, but it can't touch local politics. We can sue, but Frank will bury us in legal fees. Or we fight my way outside the rules. I looked at her, this woman I thought I knew, and nodded. What's the plan? Laura sketched on a whiteboard. Frank's power is his council seat and money. His salary doesn't cover his lifestyle. He's dirty. We follow the money. I used my tech background to pose as a wealthy developer, pitching a fake condo project to lure Frank. Eddie, terrified but loyal, spread the rumor after overhearing me on a loud phone call. Frank bit, arranging a lunch through a crony. Laura wired me with a cufflink microphone, drilling me on my backstory. Let his greed talk, she said. At the restaurant, Frank was slick, hinting at obstacles my project would face without a facilitator. He proposed a 10% fee to a holding company. I got it on tape, a clear bribe. I left triumphant, but Laura's face was grim when I played the recording. It's too clean, Tom. He wanted you to have this. She traced the holding company to Marcus Kane, a ruthless developer tied to organized crime. Our house sat in the heart of Kane's secret land grab. Deborah and Frank were pawns, harassing residents to devalue properties for Kane's buyers. The bribe was a test to entangle me. If I turned on them, Frank would claim I bribed him. 2 of Kane's thugs appeared at our door, offering to buy our house, a veiled threat. Laura disarmed them in seconds, breaking one's nose and the other's knee. Tell Kane we're not for sale, she said. The stakes were clear. We were fighting a criminal empire. With the HOA expulsion vote looming, we planned to expose Kane at the meeting. I compiled evidence, settlements, money trails, land deeds into a presentation. Laura called a fearless journalist and Captain Hayes, now with the state's anti-corruption unit. Eddie agreed to disrupt the meeting by ranting about lawn gnomes. The community center was packed, the air heavy with tension. Deborah and Frank sat smugly, Kane lurking at the back. As Deborah called for our expulsion, Eddie stood, shouting about gnome regulations. Chaos erupted. I plugged in a projector, flashing the Kane conspiracy across the screen, detailing their scheme. Kane's thugs charged, but Laura neutralized them with surgical precision. Hayes and state police stormed in, arresting Frank for bribery, Deborah for fraud, and Kane for racketeering. The crowd cheered, neighbors embracing, and Eddie was hailed as a hero. News crews captured the Walk of Shame. 6 months later, Willow Lake is peaceful. Kane's empire is dismantled, Frank faces decades in prison, and Deborah is serving time for her crimes. The HOA is reformed, with Eddie as treasurer, guarding the budget fiercely. Our deck is built, our fines refunded. Laura and I sit on the porch swing, muffins in hand, watching the lake. I know now she was a legend who toppled cartels, yet chose this quiet life for me. Peace wasn't given who fought for it. If anyone knocks again, they'll learn. Some doors are better left unopened. What do you think, readers? Was our fight justified, or did we go too far? How would you handle injustice or violence in your own life? Share your thoughts in the comment side. Love to hear your perspective.